And overall, the Mayor is looking to a wider distribution of growth and spreading out the opportunities, but also the challenges that that brings within the capital. Why doesn't the Mayor build on the London Greenbelt? Well, the short answer is that he, like all the other main mayoral candidates, knows just how cherished that is by Londoners. And there are 10 times as many Londoners per hectare of London Greenbelt as there are elsewhere in the wider region.
All major world cities that we study at the moment, to some extent or other, face the issue of what we're calling urban dispersal. Now, that's not urban sprawl, the extension into Greenbelt or other ways of housing and other uses, but the relocation of people to small, better urban centres outside of the city.
My own organisation, L&Q, we've committed to a programme of 100,000 homes, of which 50% will be genuinely affordable to people on lower and average incomes. Jules, your provocation was why not build on Greenbelt land, and I accept that we should focus on brownfield land first of all, but we must have an adult conversation about where these homes are going to go. And what the vote said to me just a few minutes ago is that we are ready to have that conversation. I made a pledge when I joined the Homes for Londoners board along with James Murray and others. That pledge was on behalf of G15 to set aside our differences, to work together to achieve a step change in supply in the capital. That is the pledge that G15 as a group has made to London. And I think we take that pledge seriously. I believe that this is our Cathy come home moment.
To the question, where will the growth grow? It's really three things. It's in, up, and out. You have to do all three. And we have to think of London as being less of an island and more of a network.
Taller buildings have a key role to play in the capital, but we need to find out where they work, both from a design point of view and from a development viability point of view. We know they sometimes have higher development costs, which mean that where they can work and they can provide a significant number of new and affordable homes, but in other situations where values are lower, the development viability means that typologies around mid-rise towers or higher density infill are likely to be more viable.
So first of all, on the culture, I think what we've got to here is one that entitles those who are well housed in our city essentially to deprive the same opportunity to those who are not well housed. And I do think that the political leadership can and should do more about that, James. An idea is an expo, 2,000 sites all across the city, demonstrating to people in their neighbourhoods what good looks like.
In Croydon, we're also giving a cautious welcome to the pocket-type development, where units of a reduced size is traded off against affordability with less personal living space compensated for through communal areas, dining, work and socialising space. We also have a policy for back garden development that allows redevelopment of large rear gardens.
I also think it's time to review the density matrix in the London plan. The PTAL rating that many of us know and love is actually only about public transport. It doesn't factor in things like cycling, for example. So I think there is a time now to review the matrix and think about...
The Mayor, Sadiq Khan, has made clear that he wants to put healthy streets, both literally and more broadly, at the heart of the planning of both transport and land use planning in his London. So you heard already about a city for all Londoners. The notion of healthy streets is a central theme in that document and will, I'm sure, be in the draft Mayor's transport strategy when it comes out in a few weeks' time. The notion both that we have to have high-quality streets and public spaces, as I said, for the literal health of Londoners, but also to move towards even further and faster a city where people don't have to rely on their private cars so much, wherever.
London is intensely local. It's the greatest city in the world, but it's an agglomeration of localities. Parks are particularly important because they are the public realm which provides a place where everyone is on a level playing field and people can be citizens together.
I think what I would like to see from the London Plan is to set real ambition and vision for civic urbanism and the public realm and making what we've got work harder, because I actually disagree with the last speaker, because I think the democratised spaces are our streets, and 80% of our public realm are our streets and highways.
London is blooming. We have a whole new generation of kind of green-fingered developers proposing spectacular sky gardens and garden bridges, linear parks and green ribbons. But to me, none of this is public space. It's POPs. It's privately owned public space, or privately owned, publicly accessible space, POPUS. What's the problem, you might ask? Maybe it's going to be better managed, it'll be cleaner, it'll be safer, it'll be more secure. The problem comes at times like this, when we have people like Trump in the ascendancy. And even when this space isn't privately owned, it's often privately managed through things called business improvement districts, which only represent the interests of the businesses. So we're seeing a reconfiguring of public space in the interests of the private sector.
London only has 7,000 hectares of industrial land left. Some may argue that making provision for lower value-added industrial activities in a high value-added city like London is not a good use of land. So should we be actively supporting the most productive use of land, or should we try and maintain a better mix of land uses? Is it right that we should seek some cross-subsidy from these higher value land uses to provide affordable workspace on our industrial land? Now, one policy that we're considering is to actively encourage housing-led, higher density, mixed-use, intensively used town centres. Emerging research is telling us that demand is falling off for outer London new office development.
What can be done about business rates? They're going up, doubling in many cases. And the current small business rate exemption doesn't help co-working spaces, and it doesn't help businesses who pool together to rent accommodation. They don't see the relief.
So we also must remember that the sector is also very innovative. So you can look at all sorts of things like multi-stacking. You can look at underground sheds. You can look at electric vehicles. Eventually, I'm sure we'll be seeing lots of drones dropping off our packages. But we also, I think Jules touched on it, we can't be afraid of mixed-use development where there are sheds and residential. I think there's a lot of work going into that at the moment, and I think that's something that will happen in London. I think we all need to embrace that.
I think traditional planning has been part of the problem. This idea of zoning and sort of mono-use planning over acres, hectares and hectares and hectares is a real disaster for a really truly integrated mixed-use city.
It's about three-dimensional modelling. I think it's a really important point, something we'd like to ask the panel, I would like to ask the panel about. This is the three-dimensional model we did some years ago. We had a tall building strategy for 9 Elms. We modelled what tall buildings might look like in that view. Here it is today. This was on Friday. So we are working to a plan. You may not like the plan, but at least you might have an opportunity to understand what it is that the public authorities are promoting in a simple, clear, certain way.
We think that is right, and that the concept of VR and that kind of technology, the ability to use this kind of model on an iPad, all of those elements are going to be about the future in terms of interpreting and understanding the built environment.
Markers at key points across London will improve our understanding of how the geography of London works and how places relate to each other, and provides a possibility of a unique vision for a highly legible city. We can also learn from many cities where there are clusters, there are rules about separating the towers out and making them talk to each other, whereas I think we're probably maybe in danger of making ours too dense. So one last thing, design is at the heart of everything and the engine of all that we have discussed, and the more debate we have, the better. It needs to be genuine consultation, and when we do consult, we need to prepare to change our designs, change our ideas, and to generally make it a conversation between us all.
It's good to just start very quickly thinking about history. London is historically a low city with a very fortuitous topography for prospect. The skyline for centuries was populated really by the Tower of London churches and the mighty dome of St. Paul's. And since tall by its very nature means it has a very large and wide impact. And we have to think about the sensitivity of that in London. Views, on the other hand, belong to all of us. And it's worth remembering the benefits of views, whether it's
There was a lot of talk about how actually London's going to change in the future, and critically, some of the key trends that are happening across the globe with regards to new technology, machine learning. We had conversations about drones and 3D models, which are just a tip of kind of the types of changes that we're expecting to come. The London Plan team are doing a great job, and I think it's great to see that they are actually paying attention to some of the kind of key technological shifts that we're saying that are not only changing the way that we use cities, the way that we live in cities, but also the way that we plan cities.
Also, which was spoken about a lot, was the creation of public spaces and the interface between public spaces and also private spaces. And where we are creating private spaces, how can we ensure that they do genuinely feel sort of public, which is one of the things that we're very much grappling with in the city.
Actually, each of these debates or sessions are silos, and our task really, everyone in the room himself, is to really start to glue these together and connect them. And I think also it was interesting, I think it was Yolanda Barnes mentioned that we can have it all, that there's actually other places where we can actually have denser suburbs, we can actually have maker space, we can have retail space, we can have great public spaces, and I think that's really an interesting area to explore further.
I don't think there are that many occasions where the community actually gets to grips with the London Plan. Getting in early is important, so we've commented on this stage. The problem with the London Plan is that it only has one draft, and that is it. That's their best shot, and the problem is that it's hard, if you want to get further things in, to get any changes. And I just hope they're going to be amenable to suggestions at that stage.